You ever feel like you're living someone else's story? Repeating patterns you never chose, trapped by wounds you didn't even know you carried. Like there's this invisible force pulling you back into the same dysfunction, the same pain, the same limiting beliefs that destroyed the people who came before you. Tonight, I'm going to show you how to break free from the prison of your bloodline and become the generational curse breaker your family has been waiting for. From the moment you took your first breath, you inherited more than just your mother's eyes or your father's nose. You inherited a complex web of unspoken rules, emotional baggage, fears, and beliefs that have been passed down through your parents, your grandparents, and generations before them. Maybe you grew up hearing whispers of "that's just how a family is," as if dysfunction, anxiety, addiction, or conflict was some kind of birthright written in your DNA. But here's the truth that nobody wants to tell you. You do not have to carry that burden any longer. There's groundbreaking research in epigenetics that's completely revolutionizing how we understand trauma. Scientists have discovered that trauma doesn't just affect the person who experiences it. It actually changes the expression of genes, and these changes can be passed down to children and grandchildren. The Holocaust survivors' children showed genetic markers of their parents' trauma. The descendants of slaves carry the cellular memory of their ancestors' suffering. Your anxiety, your depression, your inability to trust, your fear of abandonment. It's not just your personal struggle. It's the echo of wounds that have been reverberating through your family line for decades, maybe centuries. But here's what's absolutely mind-blowing about this research. The same mechanism that passes down trauma can also pass down healing. When you break a pattern, when you heal a wound, when you choose a different path, you're not just changing your own life. You're literally rewriting the genetic code for every generation that comes after you. You're becoming the ancestor your descendants will thank. If this is hitting you right now, if you're feeling that recognition in your body, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and tell me in the comments below what pattern you're ready to break. Because I read every single comment, and your courage to face this truth is exactly what the world needs to see. That's when I understood that generational trauma isn't just about the big, obvious things like addiction or abuse. It's about the subtle ways we learn to move through the world. It's about the unconscious beliefs we absorb about what we deserve, what's possible for us, how safe the world is. It's about the nervous system patterns that get encoded in our bodies before we even have language to understand what's happening. I realized that my father's rage wasn't really his rage. It was his father's rage, and his father's father's rage, going back generations. Men in my family had been carrying this unexpressed fury, this sense of powerlessness, this inability to be vulnerable, for as long as anyone could remember. And now it was living in my body, threatening to continue this destructive cycle. But here's what changed everything for me. I started to understand that the same sensitivity that made me vulnerable to absorbing my family's trauma also made me capable of transforming it. The same nervous system that had been programmed for hypervigilance could be reprogrammed for peace. The same emotional intensity that had been channeled into anxiety could be channeled into healing. The first step in breaking generational curses is developing what I call ancestral awareness. You have to become conscious of the patterns that are running your life, the beliefs that are shaping your choices, the emotional reactions that seem to come out of nowhere. Most people live their entire lives unconsciously repeating their family's patterns, never realizing they have a choice. Start paying attention to the stories your family tells about itself. What are the recurring themes? What are the unspoken rules? In my family, the unspoken rule was that men don't show emotion, that vulnerability is weakness, that you have to be perfect to be loved. These weren't conscious beliefs. They were atmospheric, like the air we breathed. But once I started to see them, I could begin to question them. Look at the patterns of dysfunction that show up generation after generation. Is there a pattern of addiction? A pattern of toxic relationships? A pattern of financial struggle? a pattern of emotional unavailability. These patterns don't exist in a vacuum. They're being maintained by unconscious beliefs and behaviors that get passed down like family heirlooms. But here's what most people don't understand about generational patterns. They're not just psychological. They're energetic. They're spiritual. There's an actual energetic field that surrounds families, and this field carries information. It carries the unresolved trauma, the unexpressed emotions, the unfulfilled dreams of everyone who came before you. And if you're sensitive, if you're empathic, you're picking up on all of this information and carrying it in your body. This is why traditional therapy often fails to address generational trauma. You can understand your childhood intellectually, you can process your emotions, you can even forgive your parents. But if you don't address the energetic component, the pattern will continue. The curse will find a way to perpetuate itself. Breaking generational curses requires what I call energetic sovereignty. You have to learn to distinguish between what's yours and what belongs to your ancestors. You have to learn to set boundaries, not just with living family members, but with the energetic legacy they've left you. You have to learn to say no to carrying wounds that aren't yours to carry. This is where the work gets really deep, really uncomfortable, and really powerful. You have to be willing to feel the full weight of your family's pain without being crushed by it. You have to be willing to grieve, not just for your own losses, but for the losses of everyone who came before you. You have to be willing to rage, not just at your own oppressors, but at the systems and circumstances that wounded your ancestors. But here's the beautiful thing about this work. When you heal an ancestral wound, you're not just healing it for yourself. You're healing it backwards through time and forwards into the future. You're literally changing the energetic signature of your bloodline. You're transforming the legacy you inherited and the legacy you'll leave behind. I remember the night I had what I can only describe as an ancestral healing experience. I was in deep meditation, working with some of the techniques I'm going to share with you, and suddenly I felt the presence of my grandfather, my father's father, who had died when I was young. I felt his pain, his struggle, his inability to express love in the way he wanted to. And in that moment, I understood that his harshness wasn't malice. It was protection. It was the only way he knew how to prepare his children for a world that had been cruel to him. I felt such compassion for him in that moment, and I realized that the anger I'd been carrying toward my father was really anger toward the circumstances that had shaped him. My father wasn't the villain of my story. He was another victim of the same generational patterns that had wounded me. And in that understanding, something shifted. The anger transformed into grief, and the grief transformed into love, and the love transformed into power. That's when I understood that breaking generational curses isn't about rejecting your family or cutting yourself off from your heritage. It's about transforming the energy you've inherited. It's about taking the raw material of your family's pain and alchemizing it into wisdom, strength, and love. The process of breaking generational curses happens on multiple levels simultaneously. On the physical level, you have to heal your nervous system, detox your body, and create new neural pathways. On the emotional level, you have to feel and release the suppressed emotions that have been stored in your family system. On the mental level, you have to identify and reprogram the limiting beliefs that have been passed down. And on the spiritual level, you have to reclaim your connection to your authentic self and your higher purpose. This is why my approach is so comprehensive. You can't just think your way out of generational trauma. You can't just feel your way out of it. You can't just pray your way out of it. You have to address all dimensions of your being simultaneously. You have to become a master of transformation, an alchemist of your own consciousness. One of the most powerful techniques I use for breaking generational patterns is what I call ancestral dialogue. This is where you actually communicate with the spirits of your ancestors, not to worship them or be controlled by them, but to understand them, to heal them, and to transform the energy they've passed down to you. This might sound strange if you've never done this kind of work before, but remember, Consciousness doesn't die with the body. The patterns, the beliefs, the unresolved emotions of your ancestors continue to exist in the energetic field of your family, and you can actually work with these energies to create healing and transformation. During these dialogues, I've had conversations with ancestors I never met, understanding their struggles, their fears, their unfulfilled dreams. I've been able to offer them the love and understanding they never received in life. And in doing so, I've been able to transform the energy they passed down to me from burden to blessing. Another crucial aspect of breaking generational curses is what I call pattern interruption. This is where you consciously choose to respond differently than your family programming would dictate. Every time you set a healthy boundary instead of people-pleasing, every time you express your emotions instead of suppressing them, every time you choose love over fear, you're interrupting the pattern. You're creating a new neural pathway, a new energetic signature, a new possibility for your bloodline. But here's what you need to understand about pattern interruption. Your family system is going to resist your changes. Unconsciously, they're invested in maintaining the familiar dysfunction because it's what they know. When you start to change, when you start to heal, when you start to break free, they're going to try to pull you back into the old patterns. This isn't malicious. It's just the way systems work. They seek homeostasis, even if that homeostasis is toxic. This is why you need what I call energetic protection during this process. You need to learn to shield yourself from the unconscious attempts of your family members to sabotage your healing. You need to learn to maintain your new patterns, even when everyone around you is trying to pull you back into the old ones. The most powerful form of energetic protection is what I call sovereign presence. This is where you become so grounded in your authentic self, so clear about your boundaries, so connected to your higher purpose, that you can be around your family without being affected by their dysfunction. You can love them without taking on their pain. You can have compassion for them without sacrificing your own well-being. This is what true healing looks like. It's not about cutting yourself off from your family or pretending the past didn't happen. It's about transforming your relationship to your family's legacy. It's about becoming the conscious one, the healed one, the one who breaks the cycle. But breaking generational curses isn't just about healing the past. It's about creating a new future. It's about becoming the ancestor you wish you'd had. It's about living in such a way that the generations who come after you will inherit healing instead of trauma, love instead of fear, possibility instead of limitation. This is the ultimate responsibility of the awakened individual. You're not just healing for yourself. You're healing for everyone who came before you and everyone who will come after you. You're becoming a bridge between the wounded past and the healed future. You're becoming a generational curse breaker. The work isn't easy. It requires courage, commitment, and a willingness to face the deepest, darkest aspects of your family's legacy. But the rewards are beyond anything you can imagine. When you break a generational curse, you don't just change your own life. You change the trajectory of your entire bloodline. You become the hero of your family's story. In my next video, we're going to explore what happens when this healing process reaches its most intense phase. We're going to talk about the dark night of the soul, the spiritual crisis that often accompanies deep transformation. We're going to explore how what feels like a breakdown is actually a breakthrough, and how to navigate this challenging but essential phase of your journey. But for now, I want you to understand that you have the power to break any pattern, heal any wound, transform any legacy. You are not destined to repeat your family's mistakes. You are not condemned to carry their pain. You are the one your ancestors have been waiting for. You are the one who will set your bloodline free. The curse ends with you. The healing begins with you. The transformation starts right now, with the choice you make in this moment to no longer be a victim of your family's past, but to become the author of your family's future.